James Meagher made the news recently when he slammed the incredible numbers of submissions that people have been making to this government's relentless attacks on everything and exercising their democratic right to submit and have their voices heard. Which is submissions and the select committee processes this term have also been quite slim as well, because everything's put under bloody urgency. So the fact that we are still getting a good number of submissions in for bills is good. It's good to see.
Oh yeah, no, I'm loving it.
Wait, what happened to my graph's gone?
Oh no,
there was a graph. The graph was in here.
Look at this graph.
Look at this. Oh, it's not even
there we
go.
This is we found the graph.
This is the article.
Don't worry.
So just a wee graph that we love our graphs. We love our graphs.
Hell yeah.
Sharp rise in submissions to select committees. So from 2023 to when was this article written? Oh, yeah, no, very recently.
2 days ago.
Few days ago, so 600,000 plus submissions from 2023. That's when the government came into power. No, I love it. 600,001 to be exact. From 2020 to 23, so the last term, it was 280,000. Huge increase there. And 2017 to 2020, we had 95,000. So the term prior. So this was Labour majority government.
I'd be assuming that would be
Labour
around
Greens.
The one in the middle is probably around when there was the bill for the births, deaths, and marriages to be able to change your gender marker. I'm pretty sure that's what that 2020 to 2023 big spike was, because I believe before the Hikoi, the biggest submissions that were ever on record before that was for the gender bill, I believe.
So half of this here, so I would say roughly, so half of this, 300,000, is the Treaty Principles Bill, which means it's roughly the same as what we saw in 2020, 2023. For all, combining all other bills that have had submissions for it. So, very interesting little graph there. But James Meagher, he's had a tough job of being on the Treaty Principles, the Select Committee. Being he stepped down from his role. He was Select Committee chair of the Select Committee, all Select Committees. But yes, he stepped down from that role. I think Andrew Bailey's taken whatever role he had before. Yeah, great guy to be in there as well. Great MP. But yes, it was a bit too much for him. Lots of too many submissions. Too many submissions.
Oh, how dare the people have a fucking opinion? How dare?
All right, so it's so this is a piece from Newsroom.
Conversion therapy. That's the other one that I'm thinking of.
There we go. Justice Select Committee chair.
Also, just real quickly, shut up, dude. We're in the middle of the story.
Story from Newsroom. Well, I'll read a wee bit of this to give some context about what we're talking about. So the MP in charge of handling record-breaking submissions on the controversial Treaty Principles Bill says politicians may need to think about requiring proof of identity or citizenship if a surge in feedback is not kept under control. National MP James Meagher has also taken aim at political leaks during Select Committee scrutiny of the law, saying they had a chilling effect on people's willingness to speak frankly. Parliament is carrying out its triennial review of standing orders and the rules that govern the parliamentary process amid rising concerns about the proliferation of public submissions across successive parliaments. Meagher chaired Parliament's Justice Committee when it considered more than 300,000 submissions on the Treaty Principles Bill, but he is now a minister. And among those, he is now a minister? He was a minister before. But he is now a minister and among those who have raised the matter with the Standing Orders Committee. In a statement, Mega said the scale of submissions was far outpacing the resources available to select committees and showing no signs of slowing, with MPs unable to give meaningful consideration to each submitter's view as a result. While it is natural for controversial legislation to draw wider engagement, the rise of coordinated, largely online campaigns risk undermining the committee's ability to identify and consider substantive good faith submissions. Mega said MPs could need to consider whether organisations should be allowed to submit on behalf of others or if individuals should have to submit their own views. A few restrictions in place on making a submission, being part of the democratic process accessible, in other words, it was possible proof of identity or citizenship could be necessary to safeguard against abuse of the select committee process, including any use of artificial intelligence tools to generate submissions on behalf of fake people. I do not think that I do not think that this that is a road our parliament wants to go down, but it is very real and possible consequences of recent submission campaigns. Mega said of implementing additional verification processes. The surge in numbers had a practical effect on the workload of parliamentary staff, but also made it harder for politicians to determine the real value of submissions. He did not believe the coalition government's use of urgency and truncated select committee processes was behind the rise in submissions, and instead attributed it to the rise of social media and the ease with which political groups could coordinate campaigns. Greater use of AI from people making submissions and officials trying to analyse them also needed to be dealt with. Do we want to get into a world where it might be bots making the submissions to be read by bots? Is that a good place for our democracy to end up?
What a fucking hypocrite. This is coming from the same government that wants to fucking implement AI, you piece of shit. Fucking hell. Oh.
Yes. So it talks about the leaks. He talks about Takuta Ferris calling two people submitting on the treaty principles fucking racists. They were, yes, very much so. Yeah.
Fuck this guy?
Yeah, pretty much. No, the reason why my brain stopped working for a second there is because I wanted to jump to this other article with the submissions graph. But any thoughts on Amiga's words there?
I mean, it's all so clearly a fucking dog whistle. They don't want people to be able to make submissions because they realize people have learnt that they can actually have a say in stuff, and New Zealanders are actually finally putting in the effort to give a fuck and doing it. And now he's like, oh, no, because of we can't have the bots. It's like, no, maybe you should also, like, this is where the conversation goes of, oh, maybe we need to reconsider how this process is set up. Like, I'm personally of the opinion that we should have, for every bill, there should be some kind of shortened video and like small PDF that breaks down what each bill is, what it means, so that people actually can figure out how they feel about certain things, because that is the biggest barrier initially. Is like, we've all seen there's some really convoluted documents. Like, this is where it's like, no, you don't need to put less into it. You actually need to put more resources in. And we needed to discuss how people are able to submit, because, to be honest, even though we do have oral and written like accessibility in the terms of these things, like there's a lot of things we could do to improve the system rather than try to stifle people. But again, this government's doing the fascism, so why would I be surprised? And yes, it was hard work. Doing submissions is hard. Learning what to...
That's true.
Trying to learn, that's why we have people making, submission templates and actually breaking things down, but we shouldn't have to rely on people who are basically nerdy enough to hyperfixate on this thing to teach people about it. We should have it embedded in our system that there is a way for us to all, like, I'm sure half of us didn't even realize the submissions process existed maybe 5 years ago. Like, there's a lot of things we could do and change, and it's none of what he said. But I don't know. That's just my opinion.
This other story that came out 4 days ago, which had that graph, I'm going to read some of this as well because I think this is quite important with some of the possible ways in which we could deal with the rise in submissions in a way that we can keep them, but perhaps alter the process to make it easier to process. So obviously David Seymour could take the credit or blame for the surge in submissions under the current government, considering that 300,000 of the 600,000, half of them came from his bill, and another 159,000 for the RSP, his other bill.
Which I'm so glad we were able to like get that many for those two, especially.
That's
so good.
Very impressive. So the Clerk of the House, David Wilson, told Newsroom there had been more than 600,000 submissions to select committees so far this term, with the tally for the Gene Technology Bill yet to be reported. That meant almost half of the 1.3 million public submissions made since the change to the MMP electoral system in 1996 had come in the past 2 years.
Shit.
Damn, boy.
When you put it like that.
It's grown pretty much every parliament, which you'd expect, but it's now become absolutely huge, and there's no reason it would stop. Well, there might be. Maybe you should stop doing shitty bills that 600,000 people don't agree with. Right. While particular policies would provoke more submissions than others, Wilson said the democratisation of the process had also made it easier for all New Zealanders to have their say. You can make a submission online. It doesn't have to be very long. In the days of people writing on paper, they probably felt it had to be quite formal, and maybe they were not the sort of people who could do it. It's easier with social media to organise campaigns for people to submit as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. The flood of submissions had practical implications, most evident when the Parliament website crashed under the weight of submissions in the Treaty Principles Bill. Wilson said the Office of the Clerk had strengthened the capacity of the IT infrastructure beforehand, but the fact roughly half of them had come in one day was just more than it could cope with, which is fair. There's only so much technology can do. You can easily overrun a system if you're not sure how much power you need. There's still an open question there. Do we build that capacity so that it's the new norm, or was it a one-off and actually we're investing money that we don't really have on something that is not likely to happen all the time? Technical problems also risk people losing faith in the submission process and feeling as if the government was trying to stop them from sharing their view, even though that was not the case. Wilson said this sharp increase in submissions meant it wasn't practical for MPs or officials to read every single one, or for select committees to hear from every person who wanted to make an oral presentation. Parliament's Justice Committee had 16 Secretariat staff working on the Treaty Principles Bill submissions, more than 5 times the usual number, and was still processing submissions after it had produced its report on the law. Permanently increasing staff levels to meet peak demands was a potentially unwise use of taxpayer money, which I somewhat agree with. The temporary staff were limited in the work they could do, given the need for prior experience in some aspects of assessing submissions. Some government departments that use artificial intelligence to help analyse submissions with the permission of the select committee in question, and Wilson said he saw a place for technology in easing the burden on staff. We don't want to rush into it. I think it could be really useful in doing that first analysis of submissions, then flagging to a human decision maker. Hey, this one looks like making allegations against someone, or this one contains offensive language, and then a person can actually make the decision. Could do that really quickly and obviously much faster than people can. and just want to be sure it can actually do it properly. And you wouldn't want to rely on it making decisions that had any ongoing impact. Another option could be create a different channel for people who wanted to formally record their support for or opposition to a particular bill without it going through the official process required of select committee submissions. We could collate all of that probably pretty much instantly and give it to committees to say, you've got 5,000 substantive submissions where people have got a lot to say, but also 100,000 people have done this. It's not a scientific poll because it's just anyone who wants to do it, but a lot of people do just want to register opposition, more often opposition than support. Such a mechanism would require additional funding and endorsements of Parliament's Standing Orders Committee, Wilson said, and could be looked at for the next term. So some actually practical solutions, some practical realities of the submission process and processing it, some practical use of AI, but also ways in which a human can still be part of the process. There's some really good stuff in there. I think we should consider a lot of it as part of the process to make it easier. But I don't think making it harder to submit is the way to go. I think making it easier to process is the way forward. I think any way in which we are decreasing the ability to be part of the democratic process, to have our say, is suppression. I would say voter suppression, but it's suppression of the voice of the people. So that's definitely not the way we should be going, but we should be finding ways in which we can deal with the increase in submissions. And if this is the way that we're going forward, then maybe we should be funding the select committee more. Maybe we should be finding that staff that we can throw in when we need them. Like, there are ways around this. And it's going to cost money because people want their say. That's not a bad thing.
No, yeah.
That's my thoughts.
Absolutely. I mean, most of the time the answer isn't less, it's always more. It's often more, because it's like sometimes you do just need to invest in these things. Like, if you want a democracy to actually be a democracy that is representing the actual people's opinions, thoughts, and feelings, then, and if it's currently not fit for purpose in doing that, then stuff needs to change. But again, not in decreasing funding, which this government just loves to fucking do. Goddamn austerity bitches.
Our Gary. I don't know what I was going to. Our regular to Parliament, Gary, says he's in favour of David Wilson, knows his shit. Whenever Brownlee is struggling, it's David Wilson's passing him notes with advice about standing orders and speakers' rulings. Well, that's good to know.
Well, yeah.
It seems like those were reasonable considerations that he put there, and I appreciate that. It was unbiased, in my opinion. Parliamentarian saying parliamentarian things. So nice to hear that sometimes. You're just like, oh, look, someone's got practical advice, practical solutions, who doesn't just shit on the idea of people's having their say about things.
I mean, between this and the whole way that they want to change the electoral fucking your ability to register before the votes and stuff, like, they're just clearly targeting and trying to suppress any form of interest in democracy from anyone that isn't basically their people.